For years, the outside of this Greek house was tired, neglected, and honestly, a bit embarrassing. But we are finally changing that with a proper full-scale DIY renovation transformation.
In this video, we're bringing you the 5 biggest outdoor projects we've completed since starting this whole Greek house renovation project here in Zante.
It includes everything from the crazy paving to the full pool deck. Stick around because you won't believe the transformation.
So the first thing we tackled was the old paved area. It was laid out in this really rigid grid pattern, and it just didn't feel very Greek or very welcoming anymore. We wanted something more traditional, something that looked like it actually belonged on the island. So we lifted the old paving and reshaped the area into a crazy paving layout. It took a bit of time to get each stone sitting right, but once the pattern started coming together, it completely changed the feel of the space. And this is how it turned out. It instantly looks more Mediterranean, and it ties in so much better with the house and the garden. This was one of those jobs where the effort was absolutely worth it. This part of the garden had turned into a bit of a dumping ground, so the first job was clearing it all out. Once it was tidy, it actually opened up a perfect space for a pool area. We set up a simple pop-up pool, just to get something usable in the space. This isn't meant to be permanent, just something to cool off in while we work on a long-term solution. So the plan was to build a deck around it, to make it look more built in and to give us somewhere to sit and relax. We started by building a timber frame to fit neatly around the pool. The ground was slightly uneven, so we had to do some work here to get the frame level and solid. Once the supports were in and everything was square, it was ready for the cladding. Then it was just a case of laying the boards across the frame. We worked our way around all the sides, leaving a small gap between the wood and the pool so it could expand and contract in the heat. When the deck was finished, we gave it a couple of coats of paint and stain, which protects the wood from the Greek sun and makes the whole thing look a lot more polished. And here's how it turned out. The pool now looks completely built in, and the deck gives us loads more usable space around it. Easily one of the most satisfying upgrades we've made outside. The shed at the back of the garden was in a pretty rough state. The render was flaking off, the front wall wasn't really needed anymore, and the whole thing looked a bit out of place next to the improvements we were making elsewhere. So the first job was taking down the old block wall at the front. It was built really solidly but took up usable space, so removing it actually opened up the area and made the shed feel a lot less boxed in. After that, we scraped off all the loose and flaking render and fitted new edge beads. Getting the edges straight makes a big difference once you start applying the fresh render. So we put on 2 coats of render. The first one to build up the surface and level everything out, and the second one to add texture. We wanted that slightly rustic Greek look that you see on some of the older buildings on the island. The wooden door was also in a bad way, so we filled, sanded and repainted it, then rehung it. It came up a lot better than we expected. Once everything was dry, we painted the shed and the woodwork, which really pulled the whole thing together. And here's how it finished up. It finally looks like it belongs here. Simple, clean and very Greek. A huge improvement for not a lot of money. This planter area was just being used as a bit of a dumping spot. It didn't look great, but it had potential, so the plan was to tidy it up and turn it into a little seating area. But during the time since our last visit, a small family had decided to make the planter their home, so we had to consider their comfort whilst tackling this project. The process was the same as the shed. Scrape off anything loose, fit the beads, and then 2 coats of render to get that smooth, slightly rustic finish. For the bench, we dismantled an old pallet and rebuilt it to the exact width and depth of the planter, so it would sit neatly on top. Once it was together, we gave it a good sanding and a few coats of varnish to protect it. And here's how it turned out. A simple, cheap project, but it turned the junk corner into a really nice little seating spot. Big improvement, but almost no money. The outside of the villa had definitely seen better days. The paint was faded, there were cracks in the render, and it just looked a bit tired. So one of the biggest jobs we wanted to get done was giving the entire exterior a proper refresh. We started by repairing the worst of the render, filling cracks, patching the rough areas, and getting everything as smooth as possible. A lot of time goes into prep, but it makes a huge difference once the paint goes on. Then it was finally time to paint. We chose a fresh, bright blue and white, a timeless Greek style. It took a couple of coats to cover everything properly, but the transformation was instant. Even halfway through, you could already see how much brighter and newer it looked. We also touched up all the trims and the woodwork, just to bring everything together and make the outside look more consistent. And this is the final result. The villa looks completely different. Fresh, clean, and so much more alive. It's one of those jobs that takes ages, but once it's done, it changes everything.
Looking back at those 5 massive transformations, from the crazy paving right up to the full exterior repaint, it's unbelievable how different this Greek house looks now.
We'd love to know what you think. Which of these 5 outdoor DIYs made the biggest transformation? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to follow the rest of our journey.